The Journey of Chaos, the mortal who became king of the gods. Chapter 1. A world of many races. In the beginning, the world of Charon was a place of incredible diversity and magic. It was a land where countless races lived side by side, each with its unique gifts and powers. The elves, tall and graceful, lived in the endless forests of Evergrove, their lives spanning millennia. They were wise and serene, masters of nature's secrets and keepers of ancient knowledge. The dwarves, strong and resilient, mined the depths of the Stonehold Mountains, crafting weapons and treasures of unimaginable value. They were nearly indestructible, their skin as tough as the mountains they called home. The dragons, ancient and powerful, soared through the skies of Valaria, their scales shimmering with the colors of the cosmos. They were both guardians and destroyers, revered and feared by all. But among these mighty races were the humans, the weakest of all. They lived in the scattered kingdoms of Aeloria, a land of rolling hills and fertile plains. Humans were short-lived, aging quickly and easily succumbing to disease. They had no extraordinary strength, no eternal wisdom, and no natural magic. They were vulnerable in a world where might often made right. Yet, despite their limitations, humans were known for their resilience, creativity, and an insatiable hunger for knowledge. It was in this world that Chaos was born. He was not a king or a warrior, but a scholar, a seeker of truth. From a young age, Chaos was fascinated by the world around him. He studied the histories of other races, learned their languages, and immersed himself in their cultures. But as he grew older, he became increasingly aware of the plight of his people. He watched his parents age and weaken, his siblings grow old before their time, and his friends succumb to the diseases that plagued humanity. The fragility of human life weighed heavily on his heart, and he couldn't shake the feeling that it was unjust. Chapter 2. The Birth of a Quest. Chaos's life changed forever when he lost his closest friend, Lyra. She was a fellow scholar, a brilliant mind with a heart full of kindness. Together, they had dreamed of uncovering the mysteries of the universe, of finding a way to improve the lives of their people. But Lyra's life was cut short by a rare illness that even the most skilled healers could not cure. Her death shattered Chaos, leaving him with a deep sense of loss and a burning desire to change the fate of humanity. In his grief, Chaos turned to the ancient texts he and Lyra had studied together. He found references to a mythical artifact known as the Root of Life, said to be the source of all vitality in the universe. According to legend, the Root of Life had the power to extend life, heal any wound, and grant strength beyond measure. It was hidden somewhere in the farthest reaches of Charon, guarded by gods and creatures of immense power. No one had ever found it, and many believed it to be nothing more than a fable. But Chaos was not deterred. He believed that the Root of Life was real, and he made a vow to find it, no matter the cost. He was determined to bring its power back to his people, to give them the longevity and strength they lacked. His quest was not just about seeking immortality, it was about justice. He believed that all beings should have the right to a full, rich life, and he was willing to risk everything to make that a reality. Chapter 3. Trials of the Mortal, the Forest of Evergrove, the Magic of the Elves. Chaos's first destination was the ancient forest of Evergrove, home to the elves. These beings, with their near-immortal lives and deep connection to nature, were the first race to unlock the secrets of magic. Their magic was woven into the very fabric of the forest, allowing them to control the elements heal wounds, and even slow the passage of time. However, the elves believed that such power was beyond the reach of mortals, whose brief lives and fragile bodies could not withstand the strains of magic. When Chaos arrived in Evergrove, he was awed by its beauty. The trees towered into the sky, their leaves shimmering with an ethereal light. Streams of pure, sparkling water flowed through the forest, and the air was filled with the songs of birds and the rustle of unseen creatures. The elves themselves were graceful and elegant, moving through their world as though they were a part of it. Initially, the elves were reluctant to allow Chaos to study their magic. They saw him as a curious but ultimately insignificant mortal, unworthy of their ancient knowledge. But Chaos, with his deep respect for their culture and his unyielding determination, gradually earned their trust. He was not there to steal their secrets, but to learn, to understand, and perhaps to find a way to adapt their magic for the betterment of his people. Chaos spent years among the elves, studying their ways. He learned how they drew power from the natural world, how they communed with the spirits of the forest, and how they used ancient rituals to channel magic. But he also recognized that the elves' magic was deeply tied to their long lives and strong connection to nature, two things humans lacked. Undeterred, Chaos began to experiment, seeking ways to reform and simplify the elves' complex rituals so that they could be accessible to humans. He studied the basic principles of their magic, breaking down the spells and incantations to their most essential forms. He discovered that while humans could not wield the raw power of the elves, they could tap into smaller, more focused aspects of magic, simple spells that would enhance their lives without overwhelming their bodies. By the time Chaos left Evergrove, he had developed a new form of magic, one that humans could use. It was not as powerful as elven magic, but it was effective in its own right. Humans could now heal minor wounds, control small elements of nature, and even enhance their physical abilities. This magic, though limited, gave humanity a new edge, one that would grow stronger as they continued to practice and develop it. The elves, seeing what Chaos had accomplished, were both surprised and impressed. They realized that their ancient ways could evolve, and in Chaos, they saw a being with the potential to bridge the gap between mortals and gods. The Stonehold Mountains, the strength of the dwarves. After his time with the elves, Chaos set his sights on the Stonehold Mountains, where the dwarves had carved their kingdoms deep within the earth. The dwarves were known for their incredible strength, resilience, and skill in forging the most powerful weapons and armor in the world. Their bodies were as strong as the stone they lived in, and their knowledge of metallurgy and enchantments was unmatched. Chaos knew that if humans were to survive in a world of powerful races, they needed more than just magic. They needed physical strength and the tools to protect themselves. The journey through the Stonehold Mountains was treacherous. The paths were narrow, the air thin, and the shadows long. But Chaos was determined, and after many days of travel, he reached the dwarven city of Grondar. The dwarves, unlike the elves, were not secretive about their knowledge. They were proud of their craft and eager to share it with those who showed interest. However, they believed that only those with the strength and durability of a dwarf could truly master their techniques. But Chaos, always eager to learn, took this as a challenge. He began to train alongside the dwarves, learning their methods of mining, smithing, and enchanting. As he worked, Chaos noticed that dwarven strength came not only from their natural toughness, but also from their meticulous craftsmanship. Every tool, weapon, and piece of armor was made with precision and care, each one infused with powerful enchantments that enhance their natural abilities. Chaos realized that if humans could not match the dwarves in raw strength, they could compensate with superior craftsmanship and enchanted tools. Chaos spent years in the forges of Grondar, learning the art of dwarven smithing. He experimented with different metals, combining them with the enchantments he had learned from the elves. He developed new techniques that allowed humans to forge weapons and armor that, while not as indestructible as the dwarves, were still incredibly durable and powerful. He also adapted dwarven training methods to help humans build their strength and resilience, making them harder to break and more capable in battle. When Chaos finally left the Stonehold Mountains, he brought with him knowledge that would transform humanity. The weapons and armor he helped create would protect his people from the dangers of the world, while the training techniques he developed would make them stronger and more enduring. The dwarves, who had once doubted his potential, now respected him as a craftsman in his own right. The arrival in Vostara. After leaving the Stonehold Mountains, Chaos set his course for the sands of Vostara, a place of legends and peril. The desert was said to be a realm where time flowed unpredictably, where the sun hung low in the sky for days and night fell in an instant. The Jinn, ancient spirits of the desert, were the masters of this land, and they were known for their enigmatic wisdom and mercurial nature. Chaos knew that to survive in Vostara, he would need more than just strength or magic. He would need to master the very essence of time itself. He hoped that by understanding the Jinn's power, he could gain insights that would allow humans to better navigate their short lives and perhaps even find a way to extend them. But Vostara was not just a place of secrets and riddles. It was a land of dangers, where the very sands seemed to have a life of their own. And within those sands, Chaos would face one of his greatest trials, the sands of time. As Chaos ventured deeper into Vostara, the desert began to play tricks on his senses. The sun's position shifted unpredictably, casting shadows that seemed to stretch and warp as if alive. The air shimmered with heat, creating mirages that lured him off course. But Chaos pushed forward, relying on the endurance he had gained from his time with the dwarves and the wisdom he had learned from the elves. After several days of wandering, Chaos arrived at a vast expanse of shifting dunes, known as the Sands of Time. This was the heart of Vostara, where the boundaries between past, present, and future blurred. The sands themselves were said to be remnants of ancient epochs, each grain containing memories of forgotten ages. It was here that the Jinn often appeared, offering cryptic advice to those who dared seek them out. But as Chaos stood at the edge of the dunes, he sensed that something was wrong. The air was thick with tension, and the sands beneath his feet began to stir. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and from the dunes emerged monstrous creatures formed from the very sands of time. These beings were twisted and grotesque, their bodies a shifting mass of sand, glass, and ancient bones. They were the guardians of the sands of time, created by the Jinn to protect their secrets from those who were not worthy. The battle with the time beasts. Chaos had little time to react as the first of the time beasts lunged at him. It was a towering figure, its form constantly shifting between that of a beast and a man. Its limbs were made of sand, but its claws were sharp as steel, glinting with fragments of ancient weapons buried in the dunes. The creature moved with a speed that seemed unnatural, its very existence a blur between moments. Chaos quickly drew his sword, a blade forged by the dwarves and enchanted by the elves. The sword glowed with a faint blue light a sign of its magical properties. He swung at the beast, but his blade passed through its sandy form, barely slowing it down. The creature reformed instantly, its body swirling around the blade like water around a stone. Realizing that physical attacks would not be enough, Chaos tapped into the small temporal enchantments he had learned from the Jinn. He focused his mind, slowing his perception of time just enough to anticipate the creature's movements. As the beast lunged again, Chaos sidestepped, striking at the creature's core, a glowing mass of sand that seemed to pulse with energy. The strike connected, and the beast recoiled, its form destabilizing for a moment. Chaos pressed his advantage, using his enchanted blade to cut through the creature's core again and again. With each strike, the beast weakened, its form losing cohesion until it finally collapsed into a pile of lifeless sand. But Chaos had little time to rest. More creatures emerged from the dunes, each one more formidable than the last. Some were massive, like sand serpents that writhed and twisted through the air, their bodies leaving trails of glass in the wake of their movements. Others were smaller, more agile, resembling humanoid figures with shifting, distorted features. Chaos fought with everything he had, using the knowledge and skills he had gained throughout his journey. He used the elven magic to control the winds, creating gusts that scattered the sand beasts, disrupting their forms. He employed the dwarven techniques to reinforce his armor, making it resistant to the sharp glass shards that the creatures hurled at him. He even used the subtle temporal enchantments he had learned from the Jinn, giving him brief moments of heightened speed and agility. But the battle was grueling, and Chaos knew he could not fight forever. The creatures were relentless, and for every beast he destroyed, another seemed to rise from the sands. He realized that brute force alone would not be enough to overcome this challenge. He needed to outthink the creatures, to find the source of their power and destroy it, the heart of the sands. Amidst the chaos of battle, Chaos remembered the Jinn's teachings about the flow of time. He realized that the creatures were not just made of sand. They were manifestations of the sands of time themselves, drawn to protect the secrets buried within. To defeat them, Chaos would need to disrupt the source of their existence. Focusing his mind, Chaos reached out with his senses, searching for the heart of the sands of time. He attuned himself to the flow of time in the desert, feeling the ebb and flow of the temporal currents. And then he found it, a pulsating energy deep beneath the sands, a nexus of time where past, present, and future converged. Chaos knew what he had to do. He plunged his sword into the ground and channeled all of his remaining strength into the blade. The sword, infused with the power of elven magic and dwarven craftsmanship, acted as a conduit, channeling the chaotic energies of the sands of time into a single point. The ground trembled as the energy built to a crescendo. The sand beasts howled in rage and fear, their forms flickering and distorting as the very fabric of time began to unravel. And then, with a final surge of power, Chaos released the energy, creating a shockwave that rippled through the desert, disrupting the temporal currents and scattering the sand beasts to the winds. The battle was over. The sands settled, and the desert grew quiet once more. Chaos stood alone, exhausted but victorious. The heart of the sands of time had been disrupted, and the creatures that guarded it were no more. The Jinn's revelation. As the dust settled, the Jinn appeared before Chaos, their forms shimmering like mirages in the desert heat. They regarded him with a mixture of respect and curiosity, impressed by his tenacity and ingenuity. Chaos, had proven himself worthy of their knowledge, not just through strength, but through understanding. The Jinn revealed to Chaos the secrets he had sought, their understanding of time and how it could be perceived and manipulated. They taught him how to weave small strands of temporal magic into objects and people, granting them subtle control over the flow of time. Though humans could never fully control time like the Jinn, they could learn to use it to their advantage, to see the world in a new way and make the most of their brief lives. Chaos listened intently, absorbing every word. He knew that this knowledge would be invaluable to his people, helping them to face the challenges of their world with greater wisdom and foresight. But he also understood the responsibility that came with such power. The Jinn warned him of the dangers of tampering with time, of the consequences that could arise from trying to alter the natural order. When Chaos left the sands of Vostara, he did so with a deeper understanding of the world and of himself. He had faced the monsters of the sands, conquered them, and in doing so, earned the right to the Jinn's wisdom. He had gained not just power, but the insight to use it wisely, a lesson that would guide him as he continued his journey to find the root of life. Chapter 4. The Ascent to Valeria. The Trials of Valeria. Chaos's journey through Charon had led him to the floating islands of Valeria, home of the ancient and powerful dragons. Valeria was not just a place of dragons, but a land where the very elements of the world were born. The skies above Valeria were alive with storms, fire, and magic, and it was said that only the strongest beings could survive the journey to its highest peaks. To reach the root of life, Chaos would have to ascend the peaks of Valeria, where the essence of creation itself was guarded by the most formidable beings in existence. But Valeria was not an open land. The path to its summit was fraught with dangers, not just from the natural elements, but from the gods themselves, some of whom would do anything to prevent a mortal from gaining such power. The Guardian of the Storm. As Chaos began his ascent, he was met with his first challenge, the Guardian of the Storm. This was no mere creature, but a manifestation of the storm itself, commanded by Aeolus, the god of winds. Aeolus, jealous of his domain, had no desire to see a mortal tread upon the sacred lands of Valeria. He summoned a tempest to destroy Chaos, a storm so fierce that it tore the very sky apart. The wind howled with fury as lightning split the heavens, striking the ground with deafening force. Chaos could barely keep his footing as the storm raged around him, the wind threatening to hurl him into the abyss below. But Chaos was undeterred. He had not come this far to be defeated by mere wind and lightning. Drawing upon the knowledge he had gained from the Jinn, Chaos began to manipulate the flow of time around him. He slowed the storm's movements just enough to allow him to anticipate the strikes of lightning and the gusts of wind. With his elven-enhanced senses, he could see the patterns in the chaos, the rhythm of the storm that Aeolus commanded. Using this insight, Chaos moved with precision, dodging the deadly bolts of lightning and using the wind to his advantage. He channeled the power of the storm into his own blade, allowing it to absorb the lightning strikes. With each step, Chaos grew closer to the heart of the tempest, where Aeolus's power was strongest. Finally, Chaos reached the eye of the storm, where Aeolus himself appeared in a whirlwind of fury. The god, with his eyes blazing like the heart of the storm, confronted Chaos, demanding that he turn back. But Chaos, resolute in his quest, refused. With a cry, Chaos unleashed the power he had absorbed from the storm, directing it at Aeolus. The god staggered, surprised by the mortal's audacity. Seizing the moment, Chaos struck with his enchanted blade, disrupting Aeolus's control over the storm. The tempest faltered, the winds dying down as the lightning ceased. Aeolus, weakened but not defeated, regarded Chaos with a newfound respect. The god, seeing that Chaos was not just a mere mortal, but a force to be reckoned with, relented. With a wave of his hand, Aeolus dispelled the remaining storm, allowing Chaos to continue his ascent. "You may pass," Aeolus said, his voice echoing like thunder. "But beware, mortal. The path ahead is guarded by powers far greater than mine." Chaos nodded, acknowledging the god's warning. He continued his climb, knowing that the trials ahead would only grow more difficult. Chapter 5. The Wrath of the Gods. The Betrayal of Nyx. As Chaos climbed higher, he entered the realm of Nyx, the goddess of night and shadows. Nyx, unlike Aeolus, was not content to simply test Chaos. She sought to end his journey altogether. She had watched from the darkness as Chaos fought his way through Charon, and she had grown envious of the attention he had garnered from other gods. When Chaos entered her domain, the sky darkened and the stars vanished, leaving him in total darkness. The shadows around him began to shift and move, taking on forms that twisted and writhed like living creatures. Nyx herself appeared before him, her form barely visible against the inky blackness. "You are foolish to think you can defy the will of the gods, mortal," Nyx whispered, her voice a soft, menacing hiss. "The root of life is not meant for your kind. Turn back now, or be consumed by the darkness." Chaos felt the oppressive weight of the shadows pressing in on him, the cold chill of fear creeping into his heart. But he refused to be intimidated. He had faced monsters of sand, storms of fury, and the wrath of gods. He would not be stopped by shadows. Calling upon the power he had learned from the Jinn, Chaos ignited his blade with a bright, glowing light, pushing back the darkness. The shadows hissed and recoiled, unable to withstand the power of the light. But Nyx was not so easily defeated. She melded with the shadows, becoming one with the darkness itself. "You cannot defeat what you cannot see," Nyx taunted, her voice echoing from all directions. Chaos closed his eyes, shutting out the distractions around him. He focused on the subtle flows of time and space, using his Jinn-taught senses to feel the presence of Nyx in the darkness. He could sense her movements, the way she shifted through the shadows like a wraith. With a sudden movement, Chaos swung his blade, not at the shadows, but at the space where he knew Nyx would strike. The blade connected, and Nyx cried out as the light of the sword pierced through her darkness. The shadows around them dissipated, and Nyx was forced to retreat, her form flickering like a dying flame. "You may have won this battle, mortal, but the night is eternal," Nyx warned as she faded into the darkness. "I will see you again at the end of all things." With Nyx's retreat, the stars returned, and the darkness lifted. Chaos continued his ascent, knowing that the path ahead would only become more treacherous. The alliance of Prometheus. As Chaos neared the summit, he encountered a surprising ally. Prometheus, the titan who had defied the gods to bring fire to humanity, appeared before him. Unlike the other gods who sought to stop Chaos, Prometheus saw potential in the mortal's quest. "You remind me of myself, Chaos," Prometheus said, his voice filled with both wisdom and sorrow. "You seek to change the fate of your people, to give them the power to stand on their own. The gods will not make this easy for you, but I will aid you in your journey." Prometheus extended his hand, and a flame appeared in his palm, a flame that burned with the light of knowledge and defiance. "Take this," Prometheus offered. "It is a gift, a flame that will guide you through the trials ahead. Use it wisely, for it is both a weapon and a light in the darkness." Chaos accepted the flame, feeling its warmth and power course through him. With Prometheus's guidance, he knew that he could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Prometheus then pointed to the final path, a narrow bridge of stone that led to the peak of Valeria, where the root of life awaited. But before Chaos could reach the bridge, another figure appeared, a god who had been watching Chaos from the beginning, waiting for the moment to strike. The final confrontation. Ares, god of war. Ares, the god of war, stepped onto the path, his presence radiating power and aggression. Unlike the other gods, Ares did not speak in riddles or hide behind shadows. He was a warrior, and he saw in Chaos a challenger who had the audacity to defy the divine order. "So you've made it this far," Ares said, his voice a deep, resonant growl. "But your journey ends here, mortal. The power you seek is not meant for your kind. To claim it, you must go through me." Chaos gripped his sword tightly, the flame of Prometheus burning brightly in his other hand. He knew that Ares was not like the other gods. This would be a battle of pure strength and skill. Without warning, Ares charged, his massive sword crashing down with the force of a mountain. Chaos barely managed to deflect the blow, the impact sending shockwaves through the ground. Ares was relentless, his strikes powerful and precise, each one aiming to end the battle swiftly. Chaos fought back with everything he had, using the flame of Prometheus to enhance his strikes and bolster his defenses. He moved with the speed granted by the Jinn, the agility honed by the elves, and the strength forged by the dwarves. But Ares was a god, and his power was immense. The battle raged on, both warriors clashing with incredible ferocity. Ares' blows were like thunder, each one threatening to overwhelm Chaos. But Chaos, drawing on the lessons of his journey, began to find openings in Ares' attacks. He used the flame to blind Ares momentarily, creating moments of hesitation that allowed him to strike back. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Chaos saw his chance. Ares, overconfident in his power, left a small opening in his defense. Chaos lunged forward, plunging his sword into Ares' side, the flame of Prometheus igniting upon impact. Ares roared in pain, the flame searing his divine flesh. The god staggered, fury burning in his eyes. But instead of continuing the fight, Ares took a step back, his expression darkening with a mixture of pain and rage. "You may have wounded me today, mortal," Ares spat, his voice filled with venom. "But do not mistake this for victory. I will retreat for now, but know this: I will not rest until I have crushed you beneath my heel. The next time we meet, there will be no mercy." With that, Ares dissipated into a cloud of smoke, leaving the battlefield. Chaos was left alone, knowing that he had not seen the last of the god of war. The path to the root of life was now clear, but the shadow of Ares' vengeance loomed over him, a promise of a battle that would one day come.
The finally destination.
After years of hardship, Chaos finally reached the final destination of his quest, the Forgotten Realm, a place outside of time and space, where the root of life was said to be hidden. The realm was guarded by Eternus, the most powerful of all gods, who had been tasked with protecting the root from those who would misuse its power. Eternus was an imposing figure, his presence radiating authority and strength. He was both impressed and wary of Chaos. No mortal had ever come so far, and yet Eternus knew that the power of the root was not something that could be granted lightly. He warned Chaos of the cost. To claim the root of life, Chaos would have to sacrifice his humanity. He would become a god, but he would lose the very essence of what had driven him on this journey. Chaos was torn. He had come so far, lost so much, and the root of life was within his grasp. But the thought of losing his humanity, of becoming something other than what he was, gave him pause. He thought of Lyra, Tharn, Seraphis, and all those who had believed in him. He realized that his quest had never been just about extending life. It had been about giving humanity the strength to thrive, to overcome their limitations without losing what made them human. In that moment, Chaos made his decision. He took the root of life, knowing full well what it would mean. As its power surged through him, he felt his mortal self fading away, replaced by something far greater. He ascended to godhood, becoming the king of gods, but he did not forget his purpose. Chapter 6. The Legacy of Chaos. As the king of gods, Chaos used his newfound power to reshape the world of Charon. He granted humanity longer lives and greater strength, but he did so in a way that preserved their essence. Humans would still face challenges, still experience the joys and sorrows of life, but they would do so with the resilience needed to thrive in a world of mighty races. Chaos ruled with wisdom and compassion, understanding the struggles of both mortals and gods. He maintained the balance between the races, ensuring that none would dominate the others. The other gods, who had once looked down on humans, now respected them as equals, thanks to Chaos's actions. But despite his godhood, Chaos never lost the memory of his mortal life. He often walked among the humans, disguised as one of them, to remind himself of where he had come from. He knew that while he had gained immense power, he had also paid a heavy price. The friends he had lost, the sacrifices he had made, these were the burdens he carried as a god. And so, the legend of Chaos, the mortal who became the king of gods, lived on. He was revered not just for his power, but for the heart that had driven him to seek justice for his people. He became a symbol of hope, showing that even the weakest can rise to greatness, that even a mortal can change the fate of the world.